And now, America's healthcare advocate, Kerry Hall.
Hello, America. Welcome to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA, all the way from Alaska to Florida to Hawaii. We're 294 affiliates strong, thanks to all of you in our listening audience. My producer today, Mr. Darren Wilhite. I'm your host, Kerry Hall. This is your show, America. Thank you for joining us and making us one of the most popular talk shows in the country. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at AHA Radio Show. AHA Radio Show. We just reconfigured all that stuff, so it's really simple now. It's AHA Radio Show if you want to follow me there. The website, if you want to send me an email, if you've got questions, I get a lot of these, and I answer every one of them. But the website is healthradio.us, healthradio.us. Also, if you are chronologically challenged looking for Medicare coverage or individual health insurance, the lovely Joyce Thompson at RPS Benefits by Design is happy to help you anywhere in the country. You can call her at 877-385-2224, 877-385-2224, or you can reach out to Jim Lodge if you are looking for employer-sponsored health care. I don't care if you're in Texas or Tallahassee, Florida. It really doesn't matter. Anywhere you are, they are happy to help you. There's some very unique employee benefits designed that are well worth your time to take a look at. So he can also be reached at 877-385-2224. So if you want to reach out to him, please feel free to do that. All right, today in studio, we're going to have a kind of unique show today. We're going to be talking to the CEO of Core Labs, and we're going to be talking to a nurse practitioner that are here with us. So in studio with me, Octoria Ross. I didn't screw it up.
You did not.
See that?
Hello
okay.
There, Kerry.
Octoria Ross and Christina Henson, who is nurse practitioner for Core Labs. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So the purpose of the show today is to kind of get you ready for what's coming in the fall and the winter, because COVID's coming at us again. There's a fascinating article this morning in the Kansas City Star. I'll go through that in a minute. But so the crux of this show is about that. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about, and why you need to take this seriously, and why, if you think you're having an issue, you need to be tested. We're going to talk about how they do that, why that's important, and what does that mean to you. And yeah, the show will air nationally, even though Core Labs is here in Kansas City, because again, I'm trying to get this information out to people so you understand the need to react and not wait until something gets completely out of control. But a little bit about Octoria, I want to explain a little bit about her. So she is an entrepreneur. She actually has 4 different businesses that she runs, if I got it all right. I think I did. Yeah, 4 different businesses she runs. Core Labs is the one we're going to talk about today. We'll probably also talk about another one where they do injections. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But prior to this, she ran a company in Seattle, Washington. It was a hospital cleaning company originally founded. It was called Clean to the Core, so that she could, and she took out a mortgage through the grace of God and hard work. A lot of hard work and a lot of grace. It's funny, there is a Harvard Business School study that broke down the 3 key elements of being successful in business. One was your knowledge of the business, and 2 was financing. That represented 7% of what they said was necessary. 93% of it was hard work.
Yes, a lot of heart, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, and a lot of hard work. You're right.
Yeah, and so you came from a background that was pretty rough. Okay, I can relate a little bit to that. And you brought yourself up and you created these businesses. You did all of this on your own, as you said, with the grace of God. But before we get into the topic of the show, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because I think there's a misconception out there by a lot of people who think that this really isn't that difficult. You're laughing. This
sorry.
really isn't that difficult. You can go out there and you can start a business, and you're probably going to make way too much money. You're not going to pay enough in taxes, and it's really not all that difficult. I've had 6 different businesses in my life. I currently have either all or part of 3. Talk a little bit about how difficult it is, and there's no safety net.
There is absolutely no safety net. The degree of difficulty, I think, actually lies on what it is that you're actually doing. So I personally consider myself as a serial entrepreneur. I've started off a bit of a rough patch, if you will. I've been on my own since I was 12 and a half, 13. My father had passed away, and my mother just decided that she was not wanting to stay around Kansas City and raise her children anymore. And so she made the choice to leave, and I had to make the choice to, as I've said to many people as I talk and give motivational speeches. I had to man up. I had to tie up my bootstraps, pull them up, and I had to get to work. So I dropped out of the 7th grade. I altered my birth certificate, and I went to work at JCPenney Outlet selling bridal gowns right here in Shawnee Mission. Later on, I felt like life was passing me by, and my peers were continuing on with their education, and I looked up and they were in high school. And I thought, you know what, I got to go back to high school. So what did I do? I said, I don't want to go back to a school where I'm already challenged and I have to worry about other things, safety and so on and so forth. Let me go out to the affluent part of town and maybe I'll get a better quality education and perhaps then I can have a jump start, if you will. Well, I went and enrolled myself in a Shawnee Mission West High School, and I told them that my parents were deceased and that I stayed with my grandmother who was deaf, dumb, and blind. Forgive me. And I enrolled myself in the 10th grade. And I tried to just go from there, thinking that it was just going to be easy and I could just go do it and I can sign up and it will work out. Like you referred to many people thinking that they can just start a business and it'll just work out. And sometimes it does. But most of the time, that's not the case. Timing is everything. Finances certainly are important. For me and my husband and I starting some of these businesses, we used our own personal capital. We could not get a loan.
That's not unusual.
A bank would not touch us.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of prayers went up. Well, I know a lot of prayers went up, and it was obedience too. So when we started Core Lab Solutions, we actually started that in January of 2022, 2021. When God told me to go start it, I came here to Kansas City and I could not get my mother tested for COVID. It was really difficult to try to find anyone or anywhere where either A, she could afford it, or B, there was availability.
Yeah, because there were lines you couldn't get in. I mean, you were waiting 2 weeks just to get tested. It was holy hell.
It really was. And some people were paying up to $1,200 for a PCR test.
Yep.
And so how does a family of four that is the working class go back to work with these rates at that cost? And so we did market research. We reached out to people everywhere in the community, and thank God for Dr. Rita Stanley, who is our MD on staff, who took the chance with us and gave us the opportunity to be in a position to help. I'm originally from Wyandotte County, Kansas. My heart is there, and I want to give back there. And so we have been able to become a part of, in partnership with the local health departments and providing vaccines to all people. We do homeless camp where we send our mobile units out with the KCK police departments, and they would go to different camps at like 5 a.m. to administer vaccines. We partner with school systems in order to vaccinate the children. Just a couple of weeks ago at Schlegel High School, Christina can certainly speak on that. We are adamant about helping our community and not forcing the vaccine on anyone, to be very clear.
Yeah, because all that does is get a lot of pushback. You know,
Yes.
I've been vaccinated 4 times. If they make a 5th one, I'll be the first guy in line to get it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
But I believe that.
Well, if
okay?
you want to know something funny, here's the thing. At first, I did not. I did not want to get vaccinated because I was operating out of fear. My husband, on the other end, who's 13 years older than me and very much wiser than me, says, listen, the unknown is scary, but this is something that the professionals have put together, the professionals who have been in this lane have developed, and I'm going to put my trust in God first and then in them. And so as time went on and more research and the more I discovered, then I made the choice to change my mentality and my thought process, and that, you know what, this is designed to help me, and I need to understand what that looks like. And so the more understanding I got, the more comfortable I got. And I've been vaccinated as many times as you.
Yeah, see, and and I think everybody has to come to their own conclusion. I don't condemn anyone that doesn't want to do it. I mean, I've got business partners that haven't done it.
Yes.
Of course, they've had COVID 4 different times.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
And it does provide.
yeah, and I'm kind of like, hey, it's a choice.
It is a choice,
It's
but
a choice.
to be clear, it does provide some natural immunity. And Christina is here to certainly speak on that from a professional point of view and not my layman's point of view or as an entrepreneur. But I really wanted her to be here to be able to address any questions that your listeners may have about that particular.
Yeah, and we will talk about that. We're going to come back after the break. We'll talk more about that, and we'll talk about COVID. I'm going to read this little piece when we come back. out of the Kansas City Star this morning that talks about what we can kind of expect as we look toward the fall and the winter with COVID. So we'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. We've got more. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
Tell me, darling, am I right? Am I
Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. Here on the HIA Radio Network, you can find out more about us by going to the website healthradio.us, healthradio.us. I am your host, Kerry Hall. My producer, the always perfect Mr. Darren Wilhite. In studio with me, Octoria Ross. I got it right twice.
You did, but you can also call me Wendy.
And Darren's laughing because I normally step on names pretty badly. And Christina Henson. So they're from Core Labs. If you want to know more about them, they're right here in Overland Park. The website is corelabsolutions.com, corelabsolutions.com. If you need a test or if you need injection, whatever the case may be, they do a lot of things. We're going to talk about some of that stuff in this segment. You can call them at 913-499-6956, 913-499-6956, and give them a call if you wish. All right, so I'm going to read this little piece. This kind of, I saw this morning and I was like, holy cow, I'm doing a show around this topic today. The longer the virus can replicate inside a person before causing symptoms, the harder it can be to stop because the greater potential for infected and unknowingly spread far and wide. Among COVID's, and I can't even pronounce this, pernicious features, I think is what this says, its incubation period is longer than many other respiratory and viral infections, including influenza, respiratory syncytial virus, and rhinovirus. Good news is the interval between exposure and development of symptoms appears to be narrowing. So what that's saying is you're probably going to experience symptoms if you've got COVID, right?
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Christina, and why is it important for people not to delay and wait? And then how effective are the home test kits? So I just gave you about 4 questions there, but you go ahead.
Well, for the most recent question, there's a different accuracy for every brand. And I want to say the most home kits are about 70% accurate.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people don't know that. And
well, I didn't know that. And
yes. And you also have to consider when it was delivered to you, or when you, as far as like, was it too cold, too hot temperatures, is going to quickly temper the results.
So if it's set in a FedEx warehouse for 2 weeks and you got it was 100 degrees, it's probably not going to be nearly as effective as it should be.
It's very possible. Yes.
Okay. How?
Yes. So at Core Lab Solutions, we recently just started a new care kit actually for the antigen testing, and ours is 92% accurate. Some of them have gotten discontinued because of the results weren't accurate enough. So it really just depends on doing the research as far as the brand that you're doing and make sure that it's accurate enough.
Okay, so now contrast that with coming into Core Lab Solutions and getting the test there.
Okay, well, so when you want to talk about as far as the timing of getting tested, this is where the iffy part is, because a lot of us, according to the CDC, they say test closer to day 5. Day
5?
Day 5 is where they want to typically get the most accurate results. But they also have the backside. If you're having symptoms, you can test, but it all depends on your body system. How much viral load are you actually detecting? You may not have that viral load directly into the tip of your nose, where to most home tests do. It maybe have to be further back. So that's why they say probably postpone it closer to day 5, because hoping that viral load maybe go a little bit closer to the nares of your nose. But as far as Core Lab Solutions, we test on day 5. If patients come in closer to maybe they want to test day 1 or 2 because they're so anxious they need to know, we let them know. If this is negative and you're still having symptoms, there is a chance that you could still be positive. Or some people may want to test multiple times. So it also doesn't depend how accurate the test is. It's also depending when you test as well.
Okay.
So there's
viral load.
Yes, it's so many factors to consider.
Okay, so I'm a seasoned citizen. I'm 73 years old. Everybody who listens to this show knows that. And the risk for us, for those of us that are chronologically challenged, is significantly greater than it is for two of you who are young people and don't have these issues. So I'm not going to wait till day 5. I can tell you right now, if I start getting a sore throat and I start to think I've got this, I'm going to be right there at the lab getting tested as quickly as I can. And if I have to come back 2 more times, I really don't care.
And that's what most people do.
Okay, so yeah, talk about that a little bit, okay? There's nothing, what I'm saying is don't feel like there's something wrong with that, Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay, because that's what happens. But, well, I really shouldn't go because, well,
No,
you know,
not at
I
all.
should wait. I don't
Yes.
want to take up the space
Yes.
or I don't know. And then, you know, you get to day 5 and, you know, I can't tell you how many people I know that have, you know, waited, not tested, and then they've had a horrible, this latest variant, number 5, I think is it, if I'm remembering correctly. This thing knocks people down pretty hard. It's sore throat, it's respiratory issues, and I've had some people down that are associates of mine and friends of mine down 3 or 4 weeks with this thing. Typically, it's about 2 weeks, but it's ugly. It's not pretty. So the sooner you get tested, is it not the better way to do it, Christina?
Yeah, let me actually better clarify that. So day 5, what I was talking about is if you know that you were exposed to somebody, whether you may have mild symptoms or not, test on day 5. If you're having severe enough symptoms, go ahead and test. But if it's questionable and you feel like you need to retest, there is nothing wrong with that. I've had people test 3 times back to back, and then eventually that 3rd time they got that positive. So it all depends on that viral load, like
go ahead.
Wendy was saying.
Well, I was going to say was that when you're feeling the symptoms, your viral load is high. So
Explain that. What does that mean?
So I want Christina to, from a medical perspective, but from a layman's perspective to the listeners out there that think like I think. So if I have a cough, if I have a runny nose, if I have a headache, then my viral load is high.
Okay.
My symptoms are there. But if I'm asymptomatic and I don't feel anything, then I'm going to test on day 5 because I was exposed.
Okay.
But I didn't feel anything day 1 through 4, but I know that I was exposed on Sunday. So today I'm going to test just out of safety and precaution for me, my family, my work, and et cetera. But for those that are experiencing maybe even 2 out of 3 of them, I would still recommend, I personally test. I travel a lot and I, go from coast to coast. And if there are 2 things wrong with me, I'm testing.
Yeah, that's. I kind of think that's the category I'd be in, Christina.
That's actually pretty safe. I'm pretty similar as far as testing, just to be safe. You just never know. Some people will test positive within 24 hours of symptoms. Some maybe a few more days later. Everyone's different.
Yeah, and so we come back in the next segment. We'll talk about this in more detail. But so regardless of whether you've been vaccinated, we'll get into that in the next segment. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the fact that you offer treatment for people that aren't vaccinated as well at your labs. But regardless of whether you have been vaccinated or not, the testing deal is still the same. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, you can't say, okay, I've been vaccinated, so I don't need,
And I think that's what a lot of people are doing is they say, oh, well, I'm vaccinated, I'm fine. Well, it doesn't mean that you can't get it. It just your symptoms may be lessened than somebody who's not vaccinated, but you can still get it. And I think a lot of people miss. Yes.
The risk factor is probably lower, but the risk is still there.
Correct.
And what they call COVID long haul. So talk a little about that, because that concerns me because, senior citizens, that's a big issue with us. So,
well, we don't know what we don't know, and what we're learning is what we're learning day by day. And I know, again, I would refer to Christine on this one in terms of what medically, where things stand and where we're at. But again, from a layman's perspective, I just think that you should proceed with precaution. I look at the vaccine for COVID the same as I do the flu. I get the flu vaccine every year, but I've still gotten the flu when I had been vaccinated. And that's because of strains and all the controversy that goes into the mixing and potions and motions of the vaccine. I digress from that. But my point is that it's just about exposure.
And that's what's important, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this show today, is kind of explaining this to folks. If you want to learn more about Core Labs, the website corelabsolutions.com. You can call them at 913-499-6956. We'll be right back after the break with more. Stay tuned. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the fruited plain here on the HI Radio Network. You can find out more about us on the website healthradio.us. By the way, all these shows are on the podcast platforms: iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Spotify, Odyssey, SoundCloud. We're on everywhere, okay? So if you want, we had one show that we actually had 10,000 people listen to. It was on aerobics. I was amazed. I just found that out yesterday. But so you hear this show about vaccines and about testing and all the rest of it. You want to tell somebody about this or why they should pay attention to it. go back up to the podcast platform. It'll be labeled Core Labs. You'll see it up there, and you'll be able to listen to it, have them listen to it, and they'll understand what we were talking about today and why testing is important. My producer, Mr. Darren Wilhite, I'm your host, Kerry Hall. In studio with me, Octoria Ross. It's the third time I've gotten it right. Okay, and Christina Henson. They are from Core Labs. They are right here in Kansas City and Overland Park. If you need to be tested, you might want to write this down, so come fall, as we get closer to winter, it's corelabsolutions.com, corelabsolutions.com. They've got quick and easy testing there. They're happy to do it for you. Or you can call 913-499-6956. All right, so you guys are kind of vaccine agnostic. In other words, you're not telling people they can't come in if they haven't been vaccinated. You're treating people whether they've been vaccinated or not. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so we do provide vaccinations for anyone who is wanting to get it. We
So
provide
they can do vaccinations as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. We provide all, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, and we now have the new Novavax available, and it's of all age group as young as 6 months and up. But as far as the vaccines, we're available at any time, and we provide all the booster doses if necessary. We do get these through the health department as well, and we also sign up with Dr. Stanley, who's our chief medical officer, who helps provide these vaccines as well.
So, Victoria, talk a little bit about, for people that don't want to do vaccines, you have other options.
Yes, actually we do. So for people that are not interested in receiving the vaccine, for people that cannot receive the vaccine for medical reasons, that choose to supplement with vitamins and other ways to combat and build their immune system, Core Lab Solutions has pivoted and to try to accommodate all people. We have provided and introduced IV therapy studios. And so in that introduction to IV therapy studios, we have Christina that will actually go in depth and will talk to you more and more about what that looks like and what that can do for your body. Christina?
Yeah, so just to clarify, Dr. Rita Stanley, she's a functional doctor with functional medicine.
Yeah,
functional medicine.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of patients who could not get the vaccine or were choosing not to, and they were asking for alternatives. And her alternative was, well, we could do high dose vitamin C, and then along with just the oral, we could also do IV therapy. And that's why we created IV therapy along with Core Lab Solution. Specifically for this reason, we created an immunity, we didn't create it, but it's been around for years, since the 60s. But there is an immunity infusion that's high dose vitamin C, zinc, and some vitamin B complex all included in there. And people have said, because this has started, on the West Coast, it's now just making its way in the Midwest area. But I've had friends in the West Coast, and they're saying that since they've started some vitamin infusions, they're not getting COVID, even though they were exposed, or they've had symptoms very much less compared to somebody that they were with around the same time who's not getting IV therapy. So it's just a form of functional medicine that we're introducing that we would like for it to come out here in the Midwest.
So it's available to people that haven't been vaccinated. But I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm thinking to myself,
it's available to those that has as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so talk about that, because to me that's like, gee, that's another layer of protection.
It
Why wouldn't
absolutely
you
is.
want to think about that?
Well, that's where I was going to go and add on to what Christina was saying, was that this also provides a boost of your immune system. So you're combating against colds and different viruses and you name it. This is just coming in and fortifying your immune system. So if you look at it like there were soldiers in your body and your soldier number represented the strength of your immune system, then you're wanting to go up and try to optimize that and be at 100% at all times, right? So if you're vaccinated and you're doing IV therapy solutions or services, then you're fully built up and ready to fight.
That's interesting. So this started on the West Coast.
Probably on the borders, on the east and the west, but I've lived on the West Coast, so I've known of it years prior of just.
Yeah, I knew that. I know
here.
that IV therapy has been a big thing out there for a lot of things. There's
Yeah.
been all kinds of.
Well, we
some
offer
of
those-
it's a lot of fad nonsense, but some of it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So this cocktail that you're talking about, is this did your doctor come up with this, or was this already in play?
No. This was already in place. Actually, some of these infusions have been around since the 60s. They're just not being really used as often. And for her being in functional medicine, she just really is reintroducing, I guess, in this area, because there's not a lot of places prior of. But no, this is not new. This was not recreated. This is something that we're just making it available for.
The Myers cocktail has been around for quite a while.
That's what's it called again?
The Myers cocktail.
The Miners cocktail.
Myers.
The Myers. Okay, all right. That's interesting. The Myers cocktail. I'll have to remember that. And that's a combination of what is it against? Vitamin C.
Well, Myers cocktail is actually something different. So we have an infusion called Immunity, and that was the vitamin C, high dose vitamin C, zinc, and a vitamin B complex. The Myers cocktail is actually very potent. It has so many more, probably 10 ingredients more than what the Immunity does.
So tell me more.
Well, I don't have all of the list of the Myers cocktail because now these days you can just buy it all pre-mixed when we go through pharmacies, and then we would dilute it in a saline bag and we would infuse it. But the Myers cocktail they would call it probably the overall general health because it not is just your immunity, but if you're battling with any symptoms with acute or chronic symptoms, those will help with your symptoms with regular use. A lot of people I know who have fibromyalgia do this infusion weekly.
Really?
Yes.
Now, see, that's fascinating. This is the kind of thing that always amazes me when we do these shows, Darren. The things that come out that we have no idea are going to come out and are just very, very different. So that's interesting. So people use it to battle fibromyalgia. I'm also thinking that, as we get close to winter and you know that you've got the flu and all these other things, this might be a really good preventative thing to do. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think I'm doing it?
You didn't say that. Okay, you didn't say you're okay. So this is the one that you're doing, Victoria.
Yes.
Okay, and I know you do a lot of air travel back and forth, so the exposure is pretty high.
Definitely,
especially on airplanes with people sitting so close together and all the rest of it. So that's interesting. So, and how long does it take to get this infusion when they come in?
It can take about 30 minutes.
Okay, so you're
on your lunch and you're out back to the office.
Okay, how interesting.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to learn on this broadcast, and that's obviously one of the things that we're learning here today is how this all works. So talk a little bit more about some of the other things you're doing there with infusions as well. Are you doing infusions for treatments of other types of illnesses or chronic illnesses or disease?
So as far as acute or chronic disease, I would say Myers is the most relevant one out of all the infusions. But we do other things. We do have a beauty infusion that is biotin and vitamin B complex.
Say that again.
Beauty.
Beauty.
Yes.
She's looking at you when she says that.
I was looking at your hair.
Yeah, healthy hair, skin, and nails. We also have one that's very popular with the athletes. It's called Recovery and Performance. That basically from a hard gym session or anyone who's doing training 6 days a week, it'll help with muscle repair and soreness. Depending on your lifestyle, we'll probably have it.
Well, what she's not mentioning is for the ones that tied on too many cocktails the night before.
I've heard about
this. Yes, that one too.
We have a rehydration IV. Yes, we rehydrate.
Now that one I have heard about because that's very popular.
Put you right back to work.
That's very popular in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And it's very popular
at conventions.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's extremely popular. So is that all in the same location as the lab facility?
Yes, sir.
It is.
Okay, and that's over on 87th and.
No, actually, we through our other company, we purchased the building through our property management investment company. We moved into 6400 West 95th Street in Overland Park.
Okay, so you're on 95th and Overland Park, 95th and
Lamar.
Okay, all right, that's great. So that's an easy location for people to get to. So I was up on the website, but I didn't see this on the Core Labs website. Are these infusions on the website as well?
They will be. You'll see a section where it's coming this month. We have it available. We've done a few already, but we'll make it officially open to the public next week, actually.
Okay, so it just starts.
Yes.
Oh, see, this is timely.
It is very timely. In fact, we are having our private grand opening celebration just this upcoming Saturday on August 27th, and then our official grand opening next month.
That's pretty exciting. If you want to learn more about that, the website is corelabsolutions.com, corelabsolutions.com, 913-499-6956. They can call you and just make an appointment, Christina?
Yes. Or you could eventually, once we have it all set up online, it'll be available next week as well.
So they'll be able to do it
online or a phone
as well.
Call. Yes.
That's
Carrie, if I can make one correction.
Go right ahead.
The name of the business is Core Lab Solutions. I know it gets kind of a nickname of Core Labs, but it's actually Core Lab Solutions.
All right. So it's corelabsolutions.com is the website.
Yes,
If you
sir.
want more information, if you want to make an appointment, you can call 913-499-6956. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HI Radio Network. My producer, Mr. Darren Wilhite. I'm your host, Kerry Hall. If you want to tell somebody, hey, maybe you're interested in these infusions, right? You can go up to the website and you can find out about them there, and that is corelabsolutions.com. That's the website. Or you can go to the podcast platform and listen to this show. Tell somebody about it. Maybe it's your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, a friend, a neighbor, somebody you go to church with. Maybe they're having a problem, and this might be helpful to them. So once again, the website is corelabsolutions.com. All the podcast platforms, TuneIn, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Odyssey, Apple Play. There's a whole series of them. We're up on all of them, okay? And you can always find the show up there. It'll be labeled Core Lab Solutions, so you'll see the show up there. You can also call them at 913-499-6956 if you want to chat with him and make an appointment for IV therapy, or if you need to get tested. All right, so we're going to go off topic a little bit, okay? And I'm doing this because I've got a significant amount of experience with homeless people. I was on the board of directors for Benilde Hall, which is homeless veterans facility. Chairman of Don Bosco, which is senior citizens, homeless and struggling senior citizens. And then Sheffield Place, which brings in women and children into their facility that are homeless and drug addicts and all the rest of it. So you have through We Rise Up. So you know, I think it's important to give back.
Absolutely.
And clearly that's what you're doing. So talk a little bit about that. Why you did that, and why is that important to you? We talked about it before the show, but I want to let the audience hear this.
Sure. Coming up as a youth, I was subjected to homelessness, violence in the home, just a dysfunctional home life. And so because of that, we were displaced, and I became very familiar with all of the homeless shelters here in Wyandotte County and some over in Kansas City, Missouri. And as a result of that, through rape, molestation, and some other things that happened to me along the way, I became convicted that I could do something to help someone else that had fallen between the cracks. As a child, I felt like I specialized in falling through the cracks, whether it was in my school situation, my home life situation, getting pregnant at 15, having a daughter at 16, to whom I'm very much proud of. She is right now a PhD student at Cornell University, taking up amine biology, and she sits on the board of Core.
Maybe she'll take over the company at some point.
Absolutely. She sits on the board right now for Core Lab Solutions, and she has big dreams taking Core Lab Solutions global. So there are dreams and aspirations that came out of the broken little girl that came out of Wyandotte County. And I serve as a beacon of light, if you will, through God and His grace to those little girls and boys that tend to think that they're not worth it and that they can't do this or they can't do that, or they have been subjected to believing that they are less than who they are or who they will become. And so as a result of that feeling, I established We Rise Up in 2017. Again, self-funded, again, self-financed. My children, my husband and I, friends, neighbors, all gather to help the cause, whether that's feeding the homeless, providing coats and jackets and hats and socks during the winter times, tents, you name it, just trying to meet the need. I never go into a situation, scenario, a city or a town, because I have businesses in multiple states and cities. We make efforts in each of those places. And I never go in with the intention of, I have the solution to their problem. I go in with the question of, how may I help? How can we be of service? And we leave them with that notion that we rise up to reach back. And anyone who is affiliated with, we just hope that they take on the same vision that we have, and that we want to promote and elevate people within our organization, both within our for-profit and nonprofit world. But we also want to pass on the notion that you reach back to help others. And by doing that, you make the world better.
Yeah, you do. And you also, a lot of good comes out of that for yourself. I really believe that.
It's self-fulfilling. That is certainly for sure. Out of all my businesses and in all of my success, We Rise Up is the closest thing to my heart. It is my pride and joy. And it's not a multi-million-dollar non-for-profit as some of our businesses have been successful in that realm, but it gave me great joy when we went back to Sligo, where my brother, who was murdered in Kansas City, Missouri, due to street violence and whatnot, where he attended school, and we were able to give back and vaccinate children as young as, what was there, a 7-month-old there, Christina, that got vaccinated that day?
I think that day on the back to school event, I want to say the youngest was 2 years old.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I knew that it was a young tot that wasn't even in school, and I'm thinking, wow, did we just impacted this child's life? So.
One thing I will say is we're going to wrap it up here pretty quick, but you made one comment that I thought was very interesting. I think a lot of these kids are told what they can't do.
Absolutely.
They're not told what they can do.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of the messaging that's out there in the school systems and other places is that messaging.
Absolutely.
You're this and you're in this category, and that's where you're going to have to be.
Carrie, I'm a biracial woman that was raised in the 70s in Wyandotte County in the projects. So I was told that I wasn't a lot of things. I did not belong on either side of the fence. I was ostracized in many ways, and I had to fight to belong in my skin. So given that, I know others do too, and I just want to be a beacon.
Yeah, you are a beacon. I'll give you that. Okay. I think it's important people to hear things like this, and because there's so much negativity out there, and so much crap out there, unfortunately. When you hear a story like this, that should tell you something. That should tell you that you can do it, and there are opportunities for people. Quickly, if people want to donate or get involved with your charity website.
Wow. I've never done any public fundraising for We Rise Up. Unfortunately, I'm so embarrassed. I would venture to say, give the lab a call.
If they want
to help. Well, our website is actually being developed as we speak, so it will be up here within the next 2 weeks.
All right.
So I would say just contact Core Lab Solutions. Ariel Swopes is the lab director. You can speak directly with her, and you can take the conversation from there.
Good.
Thank you, Carrie.
This is pretty interesting. I think we're going to do a little more of this.
Absolutely.
Christine, any message you want to leave with people as far as being, back to the topic of COVID? And by the way, isn't there a new Pfizer vaccine coming out?
Yes, actually, that's going to come out next month in September. They plan on updating the vaccine that would cover more of the new strands that have come since they originally launched the initial vaccine, I would say.
So this is kind of like you mentioned flu vaccines earlier. This is morphing into kind of like the flu vaccines where they keep making this cocktail over and over and over again.
Yes. Unfortunately, because of this pandemic it's been around long enough for us, but it's still very new for scientists. So I think there's going to be a couple more formulations, but coming for the fall, I think this is what they plan on doing is before fall comes, hopefully they'll have it available for a booster or as an initial dose.
They'll have it at corelabsolutions.com. That's the website. They're over on 95th and Lamar. If you want to visit them, you want to call them 913-499-6956. Thank you both for being in here today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with this thought from Dr. Martin Luther King. Americans must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will surely perish together as fools. Truer words were never spoken. Thank you for listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. Goodbye, America.